Happy Teachers Day to all of you. Dr. Radhakrishnan birthday is celebrated as Teachers Day. Savitribai Phule was India's first female teacher in a country where women are still not seen at par with men. Savitribai's role as a teacher at a village school in Pune just a year after the independence is remarkable. She was living in the city of Phules, which is the place of darkness. All women belonging to any caste were treated as a source of sin. The woman is not fit for freedom. It is said that when Savitribai would go to the school, people used to throw cow dung, stones, and rotten vegetables and eggs at her. Savitribai's contribution to education. The doors of education for lower caste and untouchables were opened by the British government and missionaries in 1813. However, they in general faced stiff Brahminical opposition and didn't succeed much. Still fighting against all odds, her husband and she went on to open school in 1848. Only 6 girls are enrolled. They had to close 2 schools that they had started in 1830 and 1833 due to stiff opposition of the Orthodox and elite Brahmins. Due to social pressure, her husband and she had to leave their house. They were given help by Muslim friend. So from 1848 to 1852, they had started 16 schools in and around Pune for girls and lower caste children. Infanticide by Brahmin widows was a common sight in Pune. Since widow remarriage was prohibited, many of the young widows fell prey to the men of house and relatives or neighbors. Many of them ended their lives to avoid shame. Once Jyoti Rao, husband of Savitribai, had rescued and brought home a young Brahmin widow who was pregnant and contemplating suicide. Savitribai looked after her and she gave birth to a son. She was named Yashwant, and under Phule's care and love, he became a doctor. Also, a young Brahmin widow working as a cook in the house of Jyoti Rao Phule's friend was raped by a neighborhood Shastri. The widow Kashibai became pregnant and the Shastri refused to take responsibility. When all efforts to abort the baby failed, she gave birth to a son. Afraid of the social stigma attached to conceiving outside of wedlock, she killed the baby. The police filed a case against Kashibai and she was later sentenced to life imprisonment in the Andaman Island. Saddened by this, the Phules set up a home for the welfare of unwed mothers and their children. In January 28, 1853, they founded a house for shelter against infanticide. Savitribai was a revolutionary on par with her husband, spearheading many progressive movements in her individual capacity. She started the Mahila Seval Mandal, which worked for the awareness of women's rights, and rigorously campaigned against the dehumanization of widows and advocated widow remarriage. She also spoke against infanticide and opened a rehabilitation center for non-authorized children. Savitribai also recognized the successful barber strike, denouncing the inhuman practice of shaving widows' heads. She opened the water tank in their house to the untouchables. The symbolic act challenged notions of purity and pollution inherent to the caste system. Savitribai respected Jyoti Rao not just as a husband but also as her teacher. He had given her a new lease of life, armed her with an education, helped her stand on her own feet. She said, "My husband is a godlike man. He is beyond comparison. In this world, nobody can equal him. He confronts the Brahmins and fights with them for teaching the untouchables because he believes that they are human beings like others. They should live as dignified humans. For this, they must be educated." When Jyoti Rao Phule passed away in November 1890, Savitribai, who led Jyotirao Phule's last journey in 19th century India, this was probably the first time a woman had performed death rites. In 1897, Pune witnessed an unprecedented epidemic of plague. She joined by her son, who is a doctor, to cure the patients. One day she carried on her shoulder an untouchable boy who had fallen victim to the epidemic, and she herself was struck by it. She too breathed her last on March 10, 1897. Both these revolutionary figures have since stood for Agni, which burns injustice, and for light that dispels darkness. Thank you.